Imagine reaching for a glass of water, and suddenly your hand starts shaking uncontrollably, the water spilling everywhere while everyone around you stares at you. Or maybe it's that awkward moment when you need to sign an important document and your handwriting turns into incomprehensible scrolls because your fingers simply no longer obey your commands. For many people with Parkinson's, this is not a hypothetical situation, but a painful daily reality that goes far beyond the visible tremors that everyone knows. It's a silent struggle against a body that seems to have developed a life of its own, a battle that often leads to social isolation, constant frustration, and a profound feeling of loss of control over one's life. Perhaps you or someone you love is facing these challenges daily, and despite all the medications and conventional treatments, the symptoms continue to progress, leaving a distressing question hanging in the air. Is there anything else we can do to slow this progression? What many neurologists don't have time to explain during consultations is that, yes, there are factors that can be silently accelerating the progression of Parkinson's symptoms, and surprisingly, some of them may be hidden in something we consider healthy, vitamins and supplements we take with the best of intentions. Over several years of research and patient monitoring, we discovered that two specific vitamins, when consumed in excess or in inappropriate combinations, can actually worsen tremors, increase muscle stiffness, and accelerate loss of movement in people with Parkinson's. The most worrying thing is that many elderly people are consuming these vitamins daily, believing they are protecting their health, when in reality, they may be contributing to the worsening of their symptoms. Today, I will share with you what these two vitamins are, why they negatively affect Parkinson's, and, most importantly, what you can do to adjust your nutrition to truly support brain health and enhance the effect of the medications you already take. I am not here to offer miracles or magical cures, but to share information based on scientific evidence that can make a real difference in the quality of life of those who live with Parkinson's daily. Before we begin, I'd like to know where you're watching from today. Leave a comment below, and feel free to ask any questions you have before we continue with our next method. I want to extend a special invitation to you. If you or someone you love is facing the daily challenges of Parkinson's and is looking for reliable, science-based information explained in a simple way, this channel was created especially with you in mind. Here we regularly share practical strategies, exercises, and tips that have helped hundreds of people regain small and large independence in their daily lives. Click the subscribe button now. It's completely free, so you won't miss any techniques that can make a difference in your quality of life or that of your family member. Now, let's continue with our main content. Before revealing which are the two problematic vitamins, we need to understand what happens in the brain of a person with Parkinson's and how nutrition can influence this process. In Parkinson's, there is a progressive loss of neurons that produce dopamine, a neurotransmitter essential for controlling movement. This loss occurs mainly in a brain region called the substantia nigra. But what many don't know is that this degeneration process is directly influenced by two main mechanisms: oxidative stress, which causes damage to brain cells, and neuroinflammation, which accelerates neuronal death. The role of nutrition here is fundamental, because certain nutrients can increase or decrease both oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain. Furthermore, there is a complex interaction between certain nutrients and the absorption and effectiveness of Parkinson's medications, such as levodopa, which most patients use. Let's first talk about the first vitamin that can be problematic for people with Parkinson's. Among the many supplements that elderly people often take on medical recommendation or on their own initiative, vitamin B6 or pyridoxine stands out as one of the most harmful for those with Parkinson's when consumed in excess. But how exactly does vitamin B6 affect people with Parkinson's? Let's explore together. Vitamin B6 is naturally important for several functions in the body, including protein metabolism, immune function, and neurotransmitter production. However, when a person is taking levodopa, the most common Parkinson's medication, excess vitamin B6 can directly interfere with the effectiveness of this medication. Studies show that vitamin B6 accelerates the degradation of levodopa before it can reach the brain and be converted to dopamine. This interference occurs because B6 acts as a cofactor for the enzyme dopa decarboxylase, which converts levodopa to dopamine outside the brain. When this happens, less medication can cross the blood-brain barrier, resulting in shorter periods of symptom relief and greater motor fluctuations throughout the day, which patients often describe as more unpredictable on and off periods. Many people don't realize this connection and become confused when their symptoms worsen, despite correctly following their medication treatment. In a study published in the Journal of Neurology, patients with Parkinson's who consumed high doses of vitamin B6, either through supplements or fortified foods, showed a reduction of up to 50% in the effectiveness of the medication, levodopa. It's important to emphasize that we're not saying to completely eliminate vitamin B6 from your diet. It's essential in small amounts. The problem lies in excess, especially in the form of supplements. Many popular multivitamins contain high doses of B6, far above what most people need. So, which foods are particularly rich in vitamin B6 and could be problematic if consumed in large amounts? Some of the foods high in B6 include fortified cereals, multivitamin supplements, baked potatoes, bananas, chicken, beef liver, pistachios, and oats. It's not necessary to eliminate these foods from your diet, but it's important to be aware of their amounts, especially if you notice that your symptoms worsen after consuming them. How can you balance this in practice? Talk to your neurologist about all the supplements you take, even those that seem harmless, like multivitamins. Second, always prefer to get vitamins and minerals from natural food sources instead of supplements. Third, if you take levodopa, try to consume foods very rich in B6 at times, away from your medication, at least 2 hours before or after, to minimize interference. Finally, if you need to take B6 supplements, a specific medical reason, discuss with your doctor about adjusting your levodopa dosage to account for this interaction. How to know if vitamin B6 is affecting your treatment. Some signs include unexplained variation in response to medication, more frequent or intense off periods, return of symptoms before the scheduled time for the next dose, and increased stiffness or tremors, even when following the medication treatment correctly. If you identify some of these signs, it is worth investigating your B6 intake and discussing the matter with your neurologist. However, remember to never make changes to your medication or supplement regimen without medical advice. Before we continue with the next topic, I want to create a moment of pause and reflection. Is there a question about Parkinson's that you've always wanted to ask, but never found the right space for it? Perhaps a question that seems too simple to take to the doctor, or a fear that you hold deep in your heart about the future. Know that this space is safe for all questions without judgment or simplistic answers. Leave your question in the comments. You can simply copy and complete it. My biggest question about Parkinson's is often the question you have is the same one that dozens of other people are silently trying to answer. I promise that in the coming weeks, we will address the most frequently asked questions in specific videos with evidence-based information, but explained in a simple and human way. Your question can help not only you, but an entire community of people who may not have the courage to ask. Now, let's continue with our second problematic vitamin, which can bring practical answers to many of the questions that arise in everyday life. Now let's talk about the second vitamin that can be problematic for people with Parkinson's, vitamin E. When consumed in high doses through supplements, vitamin E, which is normally known for its antioxidant properties, can surprisingly cause problems for people with Parkinson's. Let's understand why vitamin E is a powerful fat-soluble antioxidant in adequate amounts, protects cells against damage caused by free radicals. However, when consumed in very high doses, especially through supplements, vitamin E can have a pro-oxidant effect. That is, instead of protecting cells, it starts to damage them. This occurs through a phenomenon known as the antioxidant paradox, where in high concentrations, antioxidants can become oxidants. For people with Parkinson's, this effect can be particularly problematic, as oxidative stress is already one of the central mechanisms of disease progression. Adding an element that potentially increases this stress can accelerate neuronal degeneration. Recent studies have also shown that high doses of vitamin E can interfere with the activity of certain Parkinson's medications, such as the MAO-B inhibitors, selegiline and rasagiline. This interaction can reduce the effectiveness of these medications or increase the risk of side effects. A study published in the Journal of Neurological Sciences showed that Parkinson's patients who took vitamin E supplements in doses greater than 800 IU per day had a faster progression of motor symptoms compared to those who obtained vitamin E only through diet. Another problem related to high-dose vitamin E is the increased risk of bleeding, which can be particularly worrying for older adults with Parkinson's, who are often more prone to falls. This is because vitamin E has anticoagulant properties that, in high doses, can prolong clotting time. So what are the common sources of excess vitamin E? The main culprit is pure vitamin E supplements, which can contain 400 to 1000 IU per capsule, far above the recommended daily dose of 15 milligrams or 22 IU. Other culprits include some multivitamin products for older adults and antioxidant supplements. Certain foods, such as wheat germ oil, sunflower oil, almonds, hazelnuts, and spinach, are naturally rich in vitamin E, but it is virtually impossible to consume excessive doses through food alone. The problem really lies in the supplements. How to balance this in practice? First, always prioritize obtaining vitamin E through natural foods such as nuts, seeds, vegetable oils, and green leafy vegetables in moderate amounts. Second, if you take vitamin E supplements, talk to your doctor about the real need for this supplement and consider reducing the dose so as not to exceed 150 to 200 IU daily. Third, pay special attention if you take anticoagulant or antiplatelet medications in addition to MAO-B inhibitors. In this case, medical supervision is even more important. Finally, be wary of products with miraculous claims of anti-aging or neurological protection, which often contain excessive doses of antioxidants, including vitamin E. How to identify if vitamin E is affecting your condition? Some signs include increased frequency of bruising even after mild impacts, worsening of Parkinson's motor symptoms after starting high-dose vitamin E supplementation, and reduced effectiveness of Parkinson's medications, particularly MAO-B inhibitors. If you identify any of these signs, talk to your doctor about adjusting your supplementation. Remember that although some studies suggest benefits of vitamin E in moderate doses for brain health, current evidence indicates that overdoing it can be harmful, especially for those who already have Parkinson's. If this information is being useful to you, consider subscribing to the channel. It's the best way to ensure that you will receive more content like this every week, created especially for those living with Parkinson's. Our subscribers always receive the latest news first and have access to all our previous videos, which form a true guide to living better despite the challenges of the disease. Click the subscribe button now. It's quick, free, and can make a big difference in your daily life. Now that we've talked about the two vitamins that can be problematic for people with Parkinson's, let's discuss which nutrients are actually beneficial and how to put together a nutritional strategy that supports drug treatment and potentially slows the progression of the disease. Among the many nutrients that can benefit people with Parkinson's, those with balanced anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties stand out, in addition to those that aid in the synthesis and functioning of dopamine. Let's explore the three main groups. First, omega-3 fatty acids are found primarily in fatty fish such as salmon, sardines, and tuna, as well as flaxseed and chia seeds. Omega-3s have potent anti-inflammatory effects on the brain, and studies have shown that they can help preserve neurological function in Parkinson's patients. Research published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry showed that Parkinson's patients who regularly consumed omega-3s had slower progression of motor symptoms and better response to medication. The recommendation is to consume fatty fish at least twice a week or 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds daily for vegetarians. The second group is polyphenols, substances found in red and purple fruits, green tea, dark cocoa, and extra virgin olive oil. These compounds have neuroprotective action, blocking some of the degeneration mechanisms characteristic of Parkinson's. A 10-year study published in Neurology showed that people who regularly consumed foods rich in polyphenols, such as blueberries, strawberries, and green tea, had a significantly lower risk of developing Parkinson's, and those who already had the disease had a slower progression of cognitive symptoms. The recommendation is to include at least 3 servings of these foods daily, such as a cup of red fruits, a cup of green tea, and a small piece of dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa. The third fundamental group is high biological value proteins, but with an important detail about the timing of consumption for those taking levodopa. Dietary protein can compete with the absorption of the medication when consumed simultaneously. Therefore, the strategy of protein distribution throughout the day can make a significant difference in the effectiveness of the treatment. An approach that has shown good results is the so-called protein redistribution diet, where most of the protein intake is concentrated at dinner when the need for motor control may be lower, while maintaining a lower protein consumption during the day, especially at times close to taking levodopa. An Italian study published in Parkinsonism and Related Disorders demonstrated that this strategy significantly improved motor control during the day and reduced on-off fluctuations in 65% of patients. In addition to these three main groups, other nutrients worth considering include coenzyme Q10, which may help with impaired mitochondrial function in Parkinson's, magnesium, which helps with neuromuscular function, vitamin D, which has been associated with a lower risk and slower progression of Parkinson's, and antioxidants such as vitamin C in moderate doses, preferably obtained from citrus fruits and fresh vegetables. How to implement these changes in practice? First, talk to your neurologist and a nutritionist with experience in Parkinson's about how to adapt these recommendations to your specific situation. Second, implement the changes gradually, giving your body time to adapt and for you to observe the effects. Third, keep a simple food diary noting what you ate and how you felt during your on and off periods. This can help identify patterns and problem foods specific to you. Remember that adequate hydration is essential for medication absorption and for overall brain health. Aim to drink at least 2 liters of water per day, spread throughout your waking hours. Before we introduce our next technique, I want to pause to celebrate something that rarely gets the attention it deserves. Your small victories in your journey with Parkinson's. Do you remember the last time you managed to accomplish something that seemed impossible, even if it was something seemingly simple to others, like buttoning a shirt without help, walking a full circle around the block, or simply having a day with fewer tremors? These achievements need to be recognized and celebrated because they represent your strength and persistence in the face of an immense challenge. Share your victory in the comments, no matter how small it may seem. You can copy and complete this sentence. My recent small victory was when I shared your achievement. You not only documented your own progress, but also lit a flame of hope in someone who may be at the beginning of this journey and needing to believe that small advances are possible. Your stories form a mosaic of hope that sustains our community on difficult days. Let's continue with our next strategy that can help you achieve even more of these significant victories. Let's now talk about how to enhance the effect of your Parkinson's medication through specific nutritional strategies. Beyond just avoiding the problematic vitamins we discussed, there are proactive approaches that can significantly improve the absorption and effectiveness of the medications you already take. The most important strategy involves the timing and composition of meals in relation to the medication schedule, especially for those taking levodopa. The main recommendation is to take the medication on an empty stomach or at least 30 minutes before meals or 1 hour after. This is because the amino acids present in proteins compete with levodopa for the transporters that take it to the brain, reducing its effectiveness. A study published in Movement Disorders showed that patients who took levodopa on an empty stomach had a 15-minute faster onset of action and a 45-minute longer duration of effect compared to taking it during protein-rich meals. This simple time change can represent additional hours of good motor control throughout the day. However, we know that taking medications on an empty stomach can cause nausea and gastric discomfort for some patients. In these cases, an alternative is to consume a small, low-protein snack such as fruit or toast with jelly at the time of medication. This provides some content in the stomach without significantly compromising the absorption of the medication. Another powerful strategy is carbidopa supplementation in adequate doses. Carbidopa is usually combined with levodopa in medications such as Sinemet or Prolopa, but some patients benefit from additional doses. Carbidopa prevents levodopa from being converted to dopamine before it reaches the brain, increasing the amount of medication that effectively crosses the blood-brain barrier. A recent study showed that patients with suboptimal responses to levodopa experienced a 30% improvement in motor symptoms after adjusting the carbidopa dose. This is a modification that should be discussed and supervised by your neurologist. Never adjust medications on your own.
Furthermore, there is growing evidence that the gut microbiota can significantly influence both the progression of Parkinson's and the absorption and effectiveness of medication. Recent studies published in the journal Brain have shown that patients with Parkinson's often have imbalances in their gut flora that can affect systemic inflammation, the intestinal barrier, and even the absorption of medications.
Strategies to improve gut health include the regular consumption of probiotics through fermented foods such as natural yogurt, kefir, and sauerkraut, or specific supplements in addition to prebiotics, special fibers that feed the beneficial bacteria found in foods such as garlic, onion, green banana, and artichoke. An often overlooked aspect is the importance of adequate vitamin B12 for Parkinson's patients. B12 deficiency is common in the elderly and can worsen neurological symptoms, mimicking or exacerbating Parkinson's symptoms. However, supplementation should be careful not to interfere with medication. The recommendation is to check your B12 levels regularly and, if necessary, supplement with medical advice, preferably using the methylcobalamin form and at times different from levodopa. Another nutrient frequently deficient in Parkinson's patients is iron, a deficiency of which can aggravate restless leg syndrome, a common problem that worsens sleep quality. Again, checking levels and adequate supplementation when necessary should be supervised by professionals. Now that we know both the nutrients to avoid and the beneficial ones, let's talk about how to create a practical and sustainable strategy to implement these changes in your daily life. The first step is to understand that small, consistent changes are more effective than radical and temporary transformations. Start by eliminating or drastically reducing supplements with high doses of vitamin B6 and vitamin E, unless specifically prescribed by your doctor. Then, rearrange your eating schedule to optimize medication absorption. This may mean smaller, more frequent meals with lower protein content during the day and a main, higher protein meal at night. The next step is to enrich your diet with the neuroprotective nutrients we discussed. Gradually add more fatty fish, berries, colorful vegetables, nuts, and extra virgin olive oil to your diet. Remember that consistency is more important than perfection. Some practical implementations include keeping frozen berries on hand for easy daily consumption, adding ground flax seeds to yogurt or smoothies, preparing individual portions of nuts for snacks, using good quality olive oil in all salads. Finally, it is essential to monitor and record your symptoms in relation to dietary changes. A simple diary where you write down what you ate, the times of your medication, and how you felt throughout the day can reveal surprising patterns. Many patients discover specific dietary triggers that worsen their symptoms and that go beyond the general recommendations we discussed today. In addition, this record can be extremely useful in consultations with your neurologist, allowing for more precise adjustments in treatment. For people with Parkinson's who seek to improve their quality of life and potentially slow the progression of the disease, careful attention to nutrition offers a powerful tool that complements drug treatment. By avoiding excess vitamin B6 and vitamin E in supplements while increasing consumption of omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, and other neuroprotective nutrients, you can create a more favorable internal environment for your brain cells. Furthermore, by optimizing medication absorption through protein delivery strategies and meal timing, you can significantly improve symptom control and reduce motor fluctuations. You've probably noticed how difficult it is to find specific information on how to deal with Parkinson's on a daily basis, especially content in Portuguese that truly understands the Brazilian reality. That's why our channel exists, to be that place where you find clear answers without complicated medical terminology and without false promises. By subscribing to the channel, you join thousands of people like you who seek to live better despite Parkinson's. In addition to weekly videos with practical tips, our community shares experiences and offers support in the comments. We've received moving messages from subscribers who have managed to return to activities they had abandoned using our techniques, from walking in the park to playing with their grandchildren. We're not promising miracles, but rather small daily victories that, when added together, transform your quality of life. If this resonates with you, click the subscribe button now. It's free and could be the first step to discovering new possibilities for your well-being. Remember, knowledge is a powerful tool, and we want to share this with you every week. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video. I'm sure this information will make a difference in your life or the life of someone you love. Remember, every small adjustment in your diet can represent a big step in your journey with Parkinson's. See you on next video. Take good care of yourself.